Women and border communities.
Majella Murphy, Kelly to my own name, Trustee, Northern Ireland Rural Women's Network.
Reflecting back, how did you support border women through difficult times as a result of the conflict?
I moved down here to my husband's home place in 1986 at a time when a lot of people were moving out of South Armagh because of the conflict. We moved in because his mother wasn't well and we were needed on the farm. I looked around me and there was nothing. I have a daughter and a son, but I looked around me, there was nothing for my daughter. So I thought, well, I know how to set up a camogie team, I'll do it. And I went round the village, got to the football club, set up a camogie team to get the girls in and to do that safely because of the conflict and because the soldiers were everywhere in the roads and who else, you didn't know who was on the roads. So I would pick them up in the football bus at their own homes, take them to the field, keep them there, keep them safe. We had great fun. We didn't win anything, but we were a very good young women's group and it did keep the girls safe and their parents were happy enough that they were safe and they were there. For my first paid role was I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to do a diploma in community development here in Forkhill, delivered locally. So that was great and I got a grant because there was no money in the area because of the conflict, there was no jobs. So I saw a job advertised in Crossmidland. Crossmidland is not an area I knew well at all and it wasn't a place I would have dreamt of going to because of the reputation it had because of the conflict. Got the job, wasn't too sure how to go about doing the job, but lucky enough the board of directors of Women in Rural Development, which is where I was working, they were a very good group and they knew exactly what they wanted me to do and how to do it. And one of my jobs was to set up and support existing women's groups across the greater South Armagh area. So it was finding my way about and the biggest difficulty was travelling safely. Not so much for me as I was with these women, they knew the roads to take and the roads that were safe to take. But it was the timing of meetings so that people were getting home safe. And when it came to the dark evenings, you stopped having meetings because it really wasn't safe for them. And taking guest speakers in, you were going to meet them in the likes of Armagh and Newry and driving them in because people were afraid to come in because of the conflict and who they would meet on the road. They didn't know. But it was very successful now and the women, fair play to them, they were all very keen to get out and do something useful and raise the profile of the area because the profile of South Armagh and Crossmidland was very, very bad. We were called bandit country, which nobody liked, naturally. But yeah, we worked on the profile and we produced postcards to show the beauty of Slieugullion in the area.
How do we ensure border women are included and their voices are heard locally, nationally and on an international level?
We set up the South Armagh Rural Women's Network because the group recognised that a small women's group wasn't enough. It needed to be a network. So I was given the task of setting up the South Armagh Rural Women's Network. Got lots of support from women all across South Armagh. Went ahead with that, got the network set up, managed to get some lottery funding for it. We were still based in Crossmidland, which was important because that's where the conflict was. You struggled because you had meetings and you really didn't know if the people who were coming to the meetings were able to get in or not because there would be times if there was something going on in the area the army would have closed the place off and you couldn't get in or out. So the time of foot and mouth you certainly couldn't get in or out. You were stopped on the border to dip your feet. And I was stopped one day and they took my lunch with me because I had ham on it. We ran a conference, one of the first conferences we ran, we managed to get funding for childcare, which was the first piece of money we'd got that were going directly into women's pockets. The problem was that the funder wanted us to get the children's birth certificates to prove that they were actually getting money because everything you went to do in Crossmidland you had to prove twice as much as you would have to prove in some other area. So we were being double checked all the time. So we went ahead and we said, right, we're having it, we're paying the childcare directly to the women because they will give it to their mammies who are minding these children for nothing anyway, or the neighbour. But the children will get minded, the women can get to the conference and everything will be fine. Now we didn't get all of it back from the funder, but we got most of it back. And we did try to make changes as to how childcare would be paid out. We certainly were not going to ask people for the birth certs of their children to look at who was the child's father or who wasn't.
Looking forward, what more needs to be done to address challenges that border women face?
We need transport. Without a car, if you don't drive, you're not getting anywhere. As you get older, as I am now, and if you're ill for any length of time and you can't drive, you're isolated. You are not going anywhere, and you can't get to the local shop, you can't get to the local women's centre. So transport is a big one. Money is huge in a rural area. The lack of money is huge. Childcare. Childcare is just, it's too expensive. People can't afford it. I find that the women that I would have met through the conflict and bonded with through the conflict, I don't see them now. I see them very seldom because they're child minding. They're all grannies now and they're minding their grandchildren. And some of them started out minding one grandchild and now they're minding two, three, and four. And it's not fair in them. It really isn't fair. But because of the economic situation with childcare and the lack of affordable childcare, that was an issue 20 years ago. We did research 20 years ago, 25 years ago on childcare, and that came out. And the issues were travel and childcare equally 50-50 main issues. So what I think that the work that the South Armagh Rural Women Network does in this area is really, really good. They're doing good work keeping women together, offering them opportunities to go to events. If it's only a day out, it's something to get them talking and they can find out where different services are. And then we have the Northern Ireland Rural Women's Network, just covering the 6 counties of Northern Ireland. And that the main aim of NIRWIN is to be a voice for rural women. That's what we do, and that's what we've always done. That's why we were set up. And that's what it was never jobs for us when we worked there. When I worked there, it was never a job. It was something you were just going to, if you weren't getting paid for it, you would do it anyway.